Hello, everyone. It's Fred Staab and Les Jackson. We are glad you're here. We've got a big hour planned. I'm going to have Ted Ryan, who has been on the show before. He is Ford's Archive and Heritage Brand Manager. They're celebrating 75 years of the F-Series, Les. That's pretty impressive. He's going to take us all through it. What happened. Yeah. We got some all kinds of good stuff coming up on that.
It's really cool. I go on the Ford Archive Heritage site quite often.
All right. Well, we'll be talking Fords and a whole lot more when we come back on Cruise Control. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It's mine too, because I'm one of the hosts. I'm Les Jackson. The other guy at the other mic is Fred Staab. You know him very well, and you know he always has a stack of things we're going to cover.
We might even have some good news, Les.
Just don't ever open a window and let the wind in, because you're going to lose it all.
Well, that's interesting, yes. But we actually have some good news. Something we've been talking about for a long time, the chip shortage. Is it over? And many are saying it is, or very close to being over. And if so, what does that mean for your car or truck?
Well, I hope it means you can actually get one with all the stuff in it. And speaking of stuff, Mazda prices out its electric MX-30. I've driven that. But what's really interesting is plug version with a rotary engine that might be headed to the U.S. There are a lot of rotary devotees out there.
You know, it's interesting. I was watching a guy turbo his car, and the turbo place had a rotor holding down the probe for the exhaust. It was pretty funny to just see that sitting there
yes,
on the
indeed.
floor. But we're also going to tell you about the E Ray Corvette. We know when it's going to be revealed. This is the hybrid all-wheel drive version, first time for the Corvette. And those Corvette bodies mounted on a pickup truck chassis don't count as all-wheel drive.
No, they don't count. And as you mentioned a little earlier, we're joined this hour by Ford Archive and Heritage Brand Manager Ted Ryan. He's been on the show a number of times, always a great guest. This time, he's going to cover the F-Series Diamond Anniversary, Ford's F-Series trucks.
Wow.
75 years, 47 of which have been the best-selling vehicle.
That's a pretty good record. Yeah, I want to know what came before the F-Series, and maybe he'll fill us in, because I think that would be interesting to know. It's all coming up on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine with Fred Staab, that's me, and Les Jackson, that's him.
That's me.
And I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about. What's your favorite F-Series? Is it the F1?
Well, I have to. No,
you don't like the F1.
A little primitive for me. Actually, I kind of like the ones that were built in the 90s.
I like the F100s, the ones that followed.
Well, but again, I've driven the F1 and the F100, and that's why I don't care much for
Well,
them.
Here's what you got to do. You got to drop that onto a Crown Victoria chassis.
Oh, yeah.
I love the look of the two-tone, too. I'm glad that kind of came back. It's come back. It comes and it goes, but I like the two-tone. But
yeah.
All coming up on Cruise Control. We're just getting started, so keep it buckled up, and we will be right back with plenty of information, maybe the end of the chip shortage, so stay tuned.
Maybe.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson, we are glad you are here because we've got a lot going on, and we want to take you along for the ride. One of the things we've been talking about, Les, is the chip shortage. And, many of our press vehicles we get, they give you a $50 credit or a $75 credit, and things are missing that you really want, like, heated seats or heated steering wheel.
Power seats.
Or power seats.
Yeah.
Windshields. No.
Heated steering wheels, which
We both love.
we both love.
Yeah.
And some, even a couple with missing backup cameras.
Yeah, really, I don't know. I still don't know if they will come up with a way to put some of
I
these
hope
things
so.
in, because I was watching a video online about a guy that had to replace his windshield washer, container, and he said you basically would have to take the car apart because it's built around it. Like a lot of these chips are built so deeply into the vehicle, it's built around it. They figure you never have to get to it. But the good news is it may be easing in 2023. They say you're going to notice a increase in chips, and some of this information comes from Auto Forecast Solutions saying that there will be an easier supply of chips. Now, how did it affect vehicles? Well, automakers built 4 million fewer cars in 2022 than they did in 2021 due to the chip shortage. That's crazy, right?
Well, as we know, there was a terrible shortage of cars and huge added dealer markups for the cars they had, which is infuriating, but from a business standpoint, they could get away with it. So, fortunately, this is kind of going by the wayside. Used car prices, I follow them to a certain extent. They keep coming down a few $100s every month.
Yeah, but they were way up there.
They're still, on average, they were up $7,000.
That's way up there. I know I have a friend that wanted to buy a Ford Edge. He waited for a year just because of life, and it was $10,000 more when he went to buy a used one. That's crazy, but
yeah.
But we'll finally get back to normal. This is an article actually that was in the Business Insider. What do you think they're going to do about replacing these things? Like heated seats and the steering wheel and all that. I mean, the basis, the element for the heating of the seat is there. It's just the chips that control it. It could even be the switch, right?
Well, if it's a chip that controls it with a switch, like a lot of vehicles have, that's great. But if it's controlled from a screen, like a lot of higher end vehicles, and it's not there, I just don't see how they can replace the chip without replacing the entire screen.
All I know is I had my mix door go bad on my vehicle, that controls the mix. It's a little motor. Right. And to get to that, you literally, it's like you're doing deep surgery. and you have to have like every extension and, offset ratchet that you can get to handle it. So some of these things, I just think the dealer is not, will they under warranty replace this? Where maybe there's 8 hours of labor to take the interior of the car apart just to get to the socket to put the chip in?
I don't believe the manufacturer will spend that kind of money. I think they're going to just quietly sit back.
So you got your $50.
And hope it just goes away.
Right.
And for the people that sue them, maybe they'll accommodate somehow. But I just don't see a program large scale, other than things like maybe power seats where you can just put a new wiring harness under it.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
If you are going out to buy a used car in the next 5 years or so, it's definitely something that you have to think about.
You've got to look for.
You know, you go on, you say, "Oh yeah, it should have at this trim level electric seats. It should have heated seats. It should have a heated steering wheel." It may not. So
now that's interesting because it could be a bargaining chip. If there was a car I really wanted and it had supposed to have heated steering wheel and it didn't because of no chips, I'd use that as a bargaining chip. I would just say, I'll tell you what, we drop $1,000 off this and I'll take it.
There you go. Okay, well, don't drop $1,000 off of cruise control. We will take a short break and be right back. I'm Fred Staab. He is Les Jackson. You're on cruise control. Stay tuned.
Hey, welcome back to Cruise Control. Fred and I were just giving the good news about chips actually coming back, and it looks the auto industry's rather pleased about 2023's production.
I think everyone is, even the computer industry, to be able to get people computers and things like that.
That's right. People like you are waiting for a new computer.
Yeah.
Now, those of you that want to wait for an electric car, and by the way, could be an SUV or a crossover SUV or a coupe-ish SUV. Mazda has the MX-30. I've driven that. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty cool. They were giving the pricing of the MX-30.
Right.
Which sadly isn't free.
I didn't expect that it would be free.
Well, I always hold hope out.
Well, we should tell them what it is. It is for the MX-30 EV, $34,110. If you get the MX-30 EV with Premium Plus package, it's $37,120. Then you can add on things like machine gray metallic paint for $595 and ceramic metallic multi-tone for $895.
Yeah, I'm not terribly sure you can tell the difference in, two-tone, yes.
Well, here's the thing with this, though, Les. It is the first foray into electric vehicles for Mazda, but sadly, with only 100 miles of range, this kind of falls into the compliance car category where they're just trying to have an electric car so you can keep selling in certain states like California.
That's right. What's really cool to me when I drove the MX-30, which was actually 2 years ago, it has a gas gauge. It doesn't have a battery range gauge. It just has a gas gauge, just like you're using up gas. And psychologically, that's brilliant.
I agree with you.
It's just, it takes away that fear.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good idea and nothing wrong with that concept. But I'll tell you why it might have a gas gauge, and there's a reason for it. And
yes.
We don't know if this will be coming to U.S., but all indications it will be. And this is the exciting version of this. This is the Mazda MX-30 REV. Now,
and R stands for
Rotary.
I will do the video. I'll do the.
Oh,
the
yes. There it is.
Yes.
A rotor.
And by the way, this is a real rotor. It weighs about 30 pounds, and I'm not going to hold it up much longer.
No, it's a good workout, though.
It's
a nice piece of machining.
Well, I can't spin it either.
No, you can't spin it on your...
No.
Well, the rotary returns. Now, what's interesting about this MX-30 REV, it is very much like the Chevy Volt. The motor in no way drives the... there's no connection to it. There's no drive shaft or transmission. it is basically there to charge the battery. This has a smaller battery than the all-electric MX-30 that we just told you about. But when you're really accelerating, this engine will fire up and really kick a charge into the battery. And it is a rotary extender that engine that hangs off the side of the electric motor. Isn't that crazy?
Well, the interesting thing is that, Mazda in Asia has been building rotary-powered generators for quite a while. They still have a rotary engineering team, and that's perfect because a generator is a constant speed engine.
Well,
and it's perfect.
I think this is a good idea. Certainly, it falls into the realm of electrification. But the idea that you have, they have a 13-gallon fuel tank, so you probably have some pretty good range in this. We don't know what it is.
Oh, you would.
But it is electric.
75, yeah.
So,
yeah, it's.
What do you think about this? I think it's an interesting overall concept. I'm excited to see how it works with the rotary engine. Rotary engine's great to start and stop as needed, right?
Absolutely. And it's a 75 horsepower rotary, which means it's about the size of a toaster. and 75 horsepower is basically 75 kilowatts. So it's going to it's going to charge the battery, and I'd say it'll add a good 100 miles to the range.
Yeah, and however long it lasts, I mean, it will run and keep the battery going until it runs out of gas,
Right. And then you fill it up and keep going.
Yeah. So, interesting.
It's great.
Interesting concept. I always thought the Chevy Volt, which kind of uses the same concept, was a good idea. And I think people couldn't quite understand what it was, and Chevy couldn't explain it. So
yeah, unfortunately, the Volt was never marketed properly, never explained properly. People that own them love them.
Well, talking about electrification, looks like January 17th is the date that the hybrid Corvette E Ray will make its reveal, its actual reveal. You've seen pictures of it doing cold weather testing. And it's going to be all-wheel drive, and it will be a hybrid. And we've seen pictures of the interior and all kinds of different things with that. It won't be a plug-in hybrid, but it will have all-wheel drive and will have the motors up front. What I'm interested in seeing is how much storage do you lose up front in that frunk?
Probably quite a bit.
Probably quite a bit. It's probably not that deep anymore. You probably can't fit that roll-around bag in there. Maybe you can fit a briefcase in there. That's just me. I don't know. But I think this is pretty interesting that it is all-wheel drive. And let's remember there was a hybrid Acura NSX. And I think this is going to basically be the Grand Sport. This is going to be the mid-model between the Stingray and the Z06. So expect to see Z06 stylings and body cues, but with this all-wheel drivetrain. That's what I'm thinking. How about you?
I fully agree. This makes marketing sense. It makes sense for the Corvette enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. They want bigger and better and different.
Yeah. So
I think it's going to be interesting.
Interesting stuff. The E Ray, we will keep you up to date on that. And there's also some scuttlebutt that they're going to find some extra ponies for the Stingray, which already has $495, which is
only $495.
Plenty stout. Believe me, it takes off like a rocket ship.
We can attest to that.
Yes, we can. So
more than adequate.
I believe this maybe will be around 600. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think.
Right in the middle, between $495 and $650 for the Z06. So that's plenty stout, and you get the all-wheel drive capability. mostly for handling. You're not going to be off-roading this. You're not
Right.
going to take this through the rally stages, I don't
You're going to
think.
drive it down to go to your yacht.
I guess so. Will they be wearing Dockers, as you always say?
Well, yes, of course, and those
Deck shoes.
yacht shoes, deck shoes.
Deck
That's what they're
shoes,
called.
yeah.
As you know, the sea is my life.
Oh boy. Okay, I know dance. I know you live for the dance too, but we won't go there. But where we will go is the history of the F Series at Ford. It is undoubtedly the most successful series of any vehicle ever made, and Ford is celebrating 75 years of the F Series, plus much of it as the best-selling vehicle in America. So pretty exciting stuff. When we come back, Ted Ryan's going to join us. He's got the history of the Blue Oval in his head, and he's going to tell us about it when we come back. So stay tuned. And welcome back to Cruise Control. If you listen to the show, you know we have been talking often about the incredible record of the F-Series pickups from Ford, and how for the F-150 has been one of the best-selling vehicles forever. And if you want to know exactly how long it's been the best-selling vehicle in the U.S., you would ask somebody like this, Ted Ryan, who is Ford Archive and Heritage Brand Manager. And, of course, you have your incredible Vault website that basically has the history of Ford since the beginning. And today we're here to talk about a celebration, 75 years of the F-Series. That's pretty cool, Ted.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. Yes, 75 years. It actually will be tomorrow.
Wow.
It's January 16th, 1948. We announced the F-Series. And as you guys know, we had made millions of pickup trucks before the F-Series came out. What was different with the F-Series is a couple of things. A, it was the first vehicle designed post-World War II by Ford Motor Company. We didn't do a car first. We did a truck first. And we designed it, built it from scratch. And what was going to be different with the F-Series, it was going to be an entire series of vehicles, the F1, the F2, the F3, etc. And we announced it to the public. And the very first brochure, which you can get in the vault, proudly says that you can get living room comfort in the cab of your F1. It was a great vehicle.
Yeah. Now let's just take us, Ted, before the F-Series. I know there's Model T pickup trucks, but what came between Model T and the F1?
Well, it was a series of them. You had the T, you had the TT, which was a purpose-built truck. You had the Model A, which was converted into a truck and had a truck body. We worked with third-party outfitters who built 4x4s beginning as early as 1934. And what changed the world, World War II. You had the tremendous technology that went into building 1.5 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton trucks to get munitions and everything around the world for World War II. And Ford was an active participant as a member of the Arsenal of Democracy. And we perfected our truck building craft then. And post-war, decided that was the first thing that we were going to build was a pickup truck and use all the great technological advancements that have been made. The very first brochure talked about living room comfort, but it also talked about airplane-worthy suspension and shocks, where the same technologies that had gone into the B-24 bomber landing shock absorbers had gone into your truck for a smoother ride.
Wow. You look at...
This is a relative thing about smoother rides. It was smooth for 1948, when rides were not real smooth. But still, I've actually driven an F1, and actually, it's as comfortable as my first living room when I when I got out of college.
But there's no power steering and no power assist, and
definitely no power steering. or power brakes.
Yeah.
But rugged. You could just beat them up.
Yeah. Well, then we move on to the F100, which was a little bit more. Well, it ran for a long time. The F100. I remember the rounded nose F100s, and a lot of them became hot rods. A lot of people like hot rodding them and making them into street rods. I mean, F100. That meant it could handle more weight, or was that just a a change in the model name?
It was just a change in the model name. I was just double checking that. It was switched to the F100s, and the F2 and F3 merged to give you the F250, which is the beginning of the 50, the half designation. And that was as early as 1953. And there were other changes that were made about that same time. The big one was when it became internally constructed cab and the twin I-beam suspension around 1961. But you see, the important thing to me is the change over time and the fact that Ford was listening to its customers. Although I will point out, during this F100 time frame, we're not the best-selling truck in America.
Wow.
We're number 2 and we're chasing. And I actually have a long-range planning document from 1963 that I was reading the other day, mainly because it has the first mention of Bronco in it. But in that long-range planning document, it talks about how Ford has to make changes to its trucks over time to take over leadership in the truck category.
And what did they think would lead to taking that over? It's all about, back then, we're not talking people driving these things as regular vehicles. They're talking about, hey, I want to dump a lot of stuff into that bed. I want it to run when it's cold. I want, it's got to be about using it as a real truck.
It was, but it was about making it quieter. It was about changes. So if you're driving, if you're a cattle rancher driving around, make that experience as comfortable as possible. So it focused on the comfort, but it also focused on the same things that we talk about today: the payload, the torque, the towing capacity, etc. And then beginning around 1961, 62, you begin to see the camper variations and the different accessories. In fact, we're going to talk about the Vault in a second, but my favorite things in the Ford Heritage Vault are the brochures from the mid 60s with the crazy accessories, things like air conditioning, radios, camper tops, snow plows, everything that you would need to make your truck a workhorse.
When did automatics get popular?
Ooh, Les, I don't know. Good question. You stumped the historian. I'll have to look that one up. I'm sure I can find it in my accessory brochures. Automatics in general, that was actually a Mercury thing back in the early 50s. So I'm going to guess that these began to have automatics sometime in the late 50s, early 60s, but that's just a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember even in high school seeing a new Ford in it, and I remember thinking, that's an automatic. The guy's not shifting. And of course, automatics in the 50s were marketed for the regular car manufacturers. So many women drivers were coming in that they wanted to give them a more comfortable drive experience, and they figured they wouldn't particularly like shifting.
Which is why a big chunk of the Mustang sold the first 2 years were automatics as well.
Yeah. Well, then, Ted? What kind of creates the need for the F-150? Was it that the F-100 was kind of more car-like, light duty, and they needed something between the 250, which might be a little heavy for people, a little big for people, or have a little bit more capability than they really needed? So was it that they wanted to tow things, maybe have a camper, as you mentioned, a snowplow, or what? Was it just kind of them, Ford, trying to kind of meet what the other competitors were doing?
It was all of those, and changes in tax laws over time. So the F-150 is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. So it's still considered a light truck compared to the F-250, which is when you start getting the medium duty and the 350 and the 450, and now all the way up to 750 when you get into the super duties. Think about that today, guys. Ford offers a truck all the way from the Maverick to the Ranger, and then the entire F-Series, all the way up to the 750 and the Lightning, that if you want a pickup truck for whatever you want to do, we have that truck for you. And that change started with the F-Series or the F-150 series in 75. But the biggest change to me was the elongated cab, the super cab in 74. Suddenly your truck goes from a workhorse to a family vehicle. And that's when a few short years later, we take over the lead and the most sold truck, but then we take over the lead in the most sold passenger vehicle, and which we've had now for 40 years, that the F series has been the most sold passenger vehicle. So that change, the tumultuous change in the 70s of providing, I love that AVA pattern right there, the different color schemes like that. And by the way, guys, I think we talked about it briefly on an earlier show, but we're offering a Heritage Edition F-150 right now that has that same ABA color pattern, the two-tone, Tommy two-tone, I always think, color pattern.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to what you were talking about there, Ted. When did the pickup truck go from being the skinny tire, 6-cylinder, give me a rubber mat and a bench seat, to, hey, this is something I want a crew cab, I want a super cab?
The late 70s transformed, and the early 80s, but also look societally at America, what was happening at the same time. You have Home Depot founded, and you have Lowe's, you have the DIY generation growing up, and they wanted a vehicle they could work with and then go to a baseball game.
All right. Well, we'll be back with Ted Ryan with more Ford heritage of the F-Series when Cruise Control returns. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It's Fred Staab and Les Jackson, and Ted Ryan is with us, the man who knows virtually everything about Ford. You are a walking encyclopedia, and you have the Ford Heritage Vault site, which we were talking during the break. It is a great way to waste time in a really good way.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's fun just looking at old marketing photos, brochures.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Well, we were kind of up to the F-150 now. We're into the F-150 territory. Once again, Ted, when did we see the first F-150?
1975 was the first F-150. And so it's had that designation. And then obviously we've added over time. And as I was saying, we're up to the F-750 now. And we just announced our entire Super Duty truck line being built in. I loved it. I don't know if you guys saw it. We got the state of Kentucky to rebrand itself as Kentucky for one day. And we have a box of Kentucky fried chicken. And I actually have a Kentucky sign where we've scratched through it. It says Kentucky. But the Super Duties are being built in Kentucky now. So that entire line is a designation that tells you you're getting a quality pickup truck.
Now, I'll put you on the spot, but I know you know the answer to this, but our audience always loves it. How often do F-150s come off the line? There's a time, and it's very short, right?
Yeah, once every 52 seconds. An F-Series comes off the line. If you're ever in Dearborn, I encourage you, the Henry Ford Museum, which is not affiliated with us, but they run the tour of the Rouge factory, the Detroit truck plant where these are built, and you can see them going down the line. And there's a great video that we have showing once every 52 seconds. But that's actually second to the Model T. When Henry Ford cranked the screws on the Model T, he got that down to once every 28 seconds in the mid-20s.
That's amazing.
Actually, back in the 90s, when the newest model of the 150 was introduced, like 94, 95, somewhere around there, we were invited, a bunch of us in the automotive press were invited down to Norfolk to the truck plant, which had originally been a Model T plant.
Oh, wow.
And we signed our names on a piece of sheet metal, and they stamped the floor. And then we waited overnight and drove the whole truck home.
That's a great story.
Dealer. But what fascinated me, and we never noticed how quickly they were producing the trucks, but I actually timed on the assembly line how long it took them to put the engine transmission in. And it was 1 minute and 28 seconds.
That's a pretty fast engine swap.
And I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
The engineering that went into that, well, you can tip your hat to a guy named P.E. Martin, not very little known Ford, an automotive executive, but he is the one that perfected the delivery of the parts at the exact moment they were needed for the assembly line. We always say Henry Ford did this, Henry Ford did that. In this particular case, it was P.E. Martin and Charles Sorensen, who they had the cars coming down the line already, but they actually, in some cases, used gravity to deliver the parts at the exact moment they were needed. So if you're putting on steering wheels, they're coming down on the right, and you just reach and you pluck, and you reach and you pluck. And so thanks to P.E. Martin for that great advancement.
Wow. Well, the F-150 continues, of course, the Lightning, and then all the current models that are out there. It's got to be something that's super important to the company to keep those sales up, and it seems like there's no end in sight. It's got to be the best record of sales to be the top-selling vehicle in the U.S. for now. What is it, 46?
40, I believe 46.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. That's too new. We just made that announcement a couple of weeks ago, and I think we said 46 because I remember saying 45 until then. But right. But actually, the best-selling vehicle in America is 40 years. Best-selling truck is 46. But no, it is amazing, and the team that work on that, it's dedicated engineers. They love their product, and the ingenuity and the creativity that goes into it. We didn't talk about the biggest change to me was the military grade aluminum beginning in 2014.
Oh yeah, that was big. I remember talking a lot about it.
Oh, and remember the competition making fun of us, showing beer cans being crushed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that was such a tremendous change. You know, and it just goes to show, if you have a product that you love and your engineers love it, you can see it come to life every single day.
Yeah. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot here for real now, but what percentage are just regular cabs these days of the current F-150? It seems like it would basically be work truck versions of it, you know.
I don't know those stats. We actually do track those stats. We've got production numbers for every vehicle for every year. I just don't have them at my fingertip. But I'm going to guess that yes, a single door, single cab is going to be down low in the sales spectrum because most people want them. And like I was talking about the elongated cab, you're showing a 4-door right there. That's a family vehicle. Yeah, that's a vehicle that you can take to the work site, or you can take to the baseball game, and it serves all of those different purposes. Can I do a plug for the Vault real quick?
Sure.
So if your listeners, viewers have, we said during the break, Top Gear from England got a hold of the link because we added about 1,600 Ford of England assets. If you want to go look up Harry Potter's Anglia or the console or the Ford Prefect or any of those, we added all those cars as well. But they described it as a perfectly good way to lose an afternoon if it's getting sucked into the vault. We've got about 10,000 assets in there, including for the 75th of the F-Series. We made sure every single F-Series brochure that we have is in there, so it's more than 400, all the way from 1948 and until current. And There's more than 350 photos of the F-Series. That's where you pull these images. So it's proved to be an incredibly popular site, FordHeritageVault.com. And we're continuing to add. When I first talked to you guys back in June last year, we only had 5,000 things in there. Now we've added the entire Mercury catalog, the entire Edsel catalog, Ford of England. We beefed up F-Series, and we continue to add to it. So if you are a fan of Ford, or if you want to go back and look for your first car, or writing a term paper if you're a kid, you can find anything you need to find in the FordHeritageVault.com.
It is just really great fun to go through it.
Oh yeah.
I recommend anybody just flip it on and enjoy yourself. You're going to find it brings you back.
A little bit of quick trivia, Ted, before we have to go. Mercury pickups, weren't they available in Canada, but never in the U.S.? It was always Ford in the U.S.
Yes, I believe that you are correct. I was just last night doing research on the trucks and the early trucks as well, the TTs and the A's. A lot of those were sold in Canada as well. And when you read those as a historian, I was trying to guess. I guess that's Western Canada more than Eastern Canada.
Okay.
With all the ranchers and farmers, et cetera. But then again, a lot of people took the TTs and the A's and the early F-Series and converted them into things that you would need if you own a painting company or a contractor. It's not just farmers and ranchers that needed them.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Ted, we could talk to you for hours. I mean, there's just...
What's next, Ted?
What's next? I'll tease you. It's going to be the concept vehicles. We're working on them already.
Man.
International products from countries around the world, and then concept vehicles. And I've had so much fun with the Nucleon and the Gyron and the
great names.
The Futura. Yeah.
Well, Ted, real quick, if people want to go to the Ford Heritage Vault, where do they go? FordHeritageVault.com.
FordHeritageVault.com and enjoy your free download and while away an afternoon.
All right. Sounds great. Hey, it's time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We'll see you down the road.